Deep in the heart of the Congo rainforest, where the trees whispered secrets and the rivers sang old songs, a girl unlike any other was born. Her mother, Adoma, was a beautiful woman, beloved by the village. Many men had asked for her hand, but she always refused, until one night, she returned from the river with a secret in her belly. She never spoke of the father. Some whispered he was a great warrior who vanished before the dawn. Others believed something more mystical, perhaps the river spirits had claimed her, or the gods had laid their touch upon her. When the baby was born, the truth became clear. The upper half of the child was that of a normal girl, smooth brown skin, bright eyes like the morning sun. But where her legs should have been, there was a long, shimmering serpent's tail, covered in emerald green scales. The child's golden eyes glowed faintly, like fireflies caught in the dark. A gasp ran through the hut where the midwife stood. One woman shrieked. Another dropped her water pot, shattering the clay on the ground. The elder who had been called to bless the child took a step back, muttering prayers under his breath. Outside, the villagers gathered, their voices rising like storm winds. A cursed child, some cried. A punishment from the gods, others whispered. Adoma held her child close, shielding her from their gazes. "She is mine," she said firmly. "She is my Nyoka," but Nyoka was never truly one of them. From the time she could slither, Nyoka was different. The other children ran through the fields, laughing and chasing each other, but she could only watch from the edges, coiled in the shadows. She longed to run, to dance around the fire at night, to feel the earth beneath her feet, but she had no feet, only a tail that set her apart. The village children feared her. They whispered behind her back, called her names, and flinched whenever she moved. Even the adults kept their distance, their eyes filled with something between pity and fear. Her only comfort was her mother, who held her close and sang to her at night. But even Adoma couldn't stop the sadness from creeping into Nyoka's heart, until the snakes came. It started one night, beneath the full moon, as Nyoka lay cowed beneath a great baobab tree. She heard a rustling in the grass. At first, she thought it was the wind, but then she saw them, dozens of glowing eyes surrounding her in the dark. The snakes had come. Some were small, no bigger than a finger. Others were as thick as her own body, their scales shining under the moonlight. They slithered around her, over her, whispering with flickering tongues, but they did not bite. Instead, they spoke. Not in words, but in something older, something that hummed in her blood, in her bones. She understood them. They told her secrets of the jungle, the hidden paths, the way the rivers twisted like veins through the land, the names of creatures that only the night knew. They warned her of dangers before they arrived. And when she called up to sleep, they wrapped around her, forming a wall of scales and fangs, keeping her safe. One night, the largest of them all, a great python, thick as a tree trunk, called beside her and spoke in a voice that rumbled like the earth. "You are one of us, Nyoka. You are not a curse. You are a bridge between two worlds." But Nyoka shook her head, her golden eyes filled with sorrow. "How can I be? My own people fear me. I have no place with them." The python's great eyes blinked slowly. "Then perhaps they must learn who you truly are." The day came sooner than she expected. One evening, as the villagers prepared for their harvest festival, trouble slithered into the jungle, though not in the form of snakes. A group of raiders, fierce warriors from another land, stormed through the trees. Their war cries split the air. They carried torches that set the hut ablaze, their spears glinting like the fangs of hungry beasts. They had come for the village's food. Their people. Screams rang out as men, women, and children scattered in terror. Nyoka watched from the shadows, her heart pounding. She saw her mother being dragged toward the river, fighting and kicking. She saw the elders trying to protect the children. She saw the fear in their eyes, the same fear they had once looked at her with. She could run, or she could fight. She took a deep breath and pressed her hands to the earth. She closed her eyes and whispered, not with words, but with something deeper, something ancient. And the jungle answered. From every corner of the forest, the snakes came, a great flood of them, riding like a river of scales. They poured from the trees, from the grass, from the very earth itself. Vipers with venomous fangs. Cobras rising like hooded spirits. Pythons thicker than a man's thigh. The raiders stopped, their faces twisting in horror. A man raised his spear, only for a viper to sink its fangs into his arm. Another tried to run, but a python dropped from a tree, wrapping around his chest like a living rope. The raiders screamed. Some fled, vanishing into the jungle. Others collapsed, paralyzed with fear. Not a single villager was harmed, and at the center of it all stood Nyoka, her golden eyes burning like twin suns, her emerald tail coiled beneath her, as the snakes slithered at her feet like loyal warriors. When the last of the raiders had disappeared, silence fell over the village. The people turned to Nyoka, their faces no longer filled with fear, but with awe. The elder who had once called her a curse stepped forward, his voice trembling. "We were wrong about you, child. You are no curse. You are our protector." A murmur ran through the crowd, then a cheer. Nyoka looked at them all, the same people who had once turned their backs on her. But now, they saw her. Truly saw her, and she was no longer ashamed. She slithered forward, no longer hiding in the shadows, her scales shining in the moonlight. She was different, yes. But she was not alone. She had her people. She had the jungle. And she had the whispers of the serpents, guiding her always. And so, the legend of Nyoka, the serpent's daughter, was born, a tale told for generations, of the girl who was neither fully human nor fully snake, but something greater than both, a guardian, a protector, a queen of the jungle.